Welcome, and thank you very much for joining us at Campaign's second online briefing of 2021. This is going to be on the subject of e-commerce. For anybody who doesn't know me, you're lucky, but unfortunately that's now over. I'm Austin Allison, I'm the editor of Campaign Middle East. We must be doing something right here because we've got an awful lot of people joining us, so this is looking good, although that could be down to the great speakers that we have and who I'll introduce in just a minute. Or perhaps it's down to what an important topic e-commerce is. COVID pushed all of us, consumers and brands alike, to e-commerce in a big way last year. And we're going to be looking at the topic from a couple of different angles: user experience and disruption and reinvention. So before we move on, I'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors who make all of this possible. Persuading Group is the leading media representation group in the Middle East today. It was built from the ground up over the past 40 years. And with their diverse portfolio of more than 50 media companies across television, radio, print, out of home, digital, cinema. They've got best-in-class data, tech, content abilities, so Persuading Group can definitely help your brand deliver results at scale and across platforms. Thanks also to our new sponsor, Arabi Ads, who's the largest e-commerce marketing platform of the region. And I really hope that together with Arabi Ads, we can bring some more innovative marketing solutions to this region. Of course, goes without saying, keep reading Campaign online, in print, on social. In fact, on social, we got our Instagram blue tick today, so feeling very pleased with that. My next mission is to get us banned. Not really. Sign up for our newsletters, listen to our podcasts, and keep attending all these virtual briefings so we can until we can get safely back in a room together. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce the first panel. This is going to be on user experience. It's going to be moderated by Sabiha Iqbal, who's the Managing Director of Accenture Interactive, Build Experience Lead at Accenture Interactive. She's joined by Stephanie Cunningham, General Manager of E-commerce MENA, Omnicom Middle East, Omnicom Media Group. And that's one of the sections of Omnicom is Transact e-commerce agency. We're joined by Stefan Davis, the General Manager of Customer Experience and Network Development at Al Masood Automobiles through in Abu Dhabi. And we're joined by Khalil Yassin, who is the Vice President of Customer Development Operations Arabia and Customer Development Capability MENA at Unilever. So I'd now like to pass over to Sabiha to get the conversation going. You guys are up and I will take a step back.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Very excited to be here today, guys. As Austin mentioned, we have a rich panel. I am Sabiha Iqbal, and I'm a Managing Director with Accenture Interactive, and I'll be the moderator for today. I am going to pass it over to Austin and the team to kind of give some context as to their background so we can then head into the questions. Go ahead, Austin. Go ahead, Steph. Sorry.
Hi guys, so I'm Steph. I've got a specialist e-commerce background, so over 10 years working at the likes of Unilever, Amazon, Estee Lauder companies. Currently, I'm leading Transact, which is an e-commerce consultancy in the Middle East powered by Omnicom Media Group. So over to Stephen to intro yourself.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'm Stephen, General Manager of Customer Experience and Network Development here at Al Masood Automobiles in Abu Dhabi. I've been in the region for the last 6 years, working for another big conglomerate in the region in automobiles, and I've seen lots of change in the last 6 years, certainly within the region. Previously, from the UK, very much retail-driven, customer-driven, and experience-driven. So over to you, Khalil.
Hi, this is Khalil Yassin. I'm Lebanese and born in Saudi Arabia. Been in this region almost 50 years. My birthday, by the way, is 23rd of March. Okay, so a week from now. It's great to be with all of you and happy to really share a real life experience on all questions which will be directed to me.
Fantastic. Thank you guys so much. Just to add, of course, e-commerce is very close to my heart. It's something that I've seen through the years being here in the UAE and the Middle East kind of take off. So I'm very excited for this conversation. So we're all really focused on the business of experience, especially since the whole COVID-19. Today, what I want to do is we'll get into experience, user experience, and how that's impacting loyalty and customer themselves, and actually personally how we feel about the brands that we're transacting and interacting with, and what our experiences are and how we can actually move the needle. So in that sort of context, I wanted to ask Khalil, starting with yourself, what do you feel has accelerated the shift to commerce? For some of the key considerations that we have and we should keep in mind for this acceleration. A lot of companies have moved towards commerce, moving from brick and mortar. Just wanted to understand what you think is creating the best customer experience.
Sure. I think first of all, I would like to really share from real life example experience. It's when we talk about, e-commerce is part of the digital disruptions which is happening globally, and it's accountability of the leadership of the organization on how they need to accelerate it and move forwards, and they look to the business in terms of long terms how it will be benefiting the entire business. We've been in this journey almost a year in Unilever, and we have really looked at what is the best way how to create a platform, which is really can take you through a journey of the customers across from the login to the checkouts, and every element, has to be very interactive to retain and convert the consumers, in their journey. So therefore, it is very important for us to really ensure that when we develop a platforms which can really cater, to a certain aspects, in the journey, and ensure that consumer is really interacted from end to end. Plus, also, it's not only about interacting when it comes to when you log in or you check in and the check out. It's all the experience comes also beyond that. When we talk about the picking, packing, and delivery, and the customer service beyond that, for anticipating a certain complaints which might really happen after the delivery. So it is really essential for everyone in real business, to really move with the mindset of e-commerce future.
So sort of creating the best experience at every touch point as we move along the entire sort of funnel, right? The purchase funnel from engaging the customer.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Certainly, I totally agree. I think that it's also very important to make sure that we're sort of considering those key moments. Steve, from your experience, especially since you're in the automotive industry and it is a lot about finding those data points for the customers. How are you finding that change and sort of the customer behavior when it comes to moving to commerce?
It's in automotive, it's quite a standard core model. What we've seen, the change in what we've seen is how customers are more interactive towards video, more towards chatbot, more towards things that give them the answer or give them the visibility easily for them. If you take the COVID situation as an example, and we go back to April last year, where no one was walking through our doors, we had to step into the commerce world a lot faster, and we did it a lot faster than any of our competitors. We were able to pivot Teams meetings or Zoom meetings with customers. Customers were wanting to do it. They were accepting the way we wanted to do things, and we changed our model very quickly. Although it wasn't set up in a way that it was all shiny. It was just we could actually do business via commerce. We could take payments online. We could do that. We've now evolved that. We've now got e-commerce. We've got our e-commerce site. We've now derived into making sure that we have digital convenience. But if you look at the customer's journey on the digital points, there's so many points that digital comes in, even though it's in the physical world. So you'll step in digital. You may want a valuation on your vehicle. You have to go back into. You come in and you go back into digital. You get the valuation. You come back down. You may want to buy the car. No, I don't want to decide here. I go home and I step back into digital. So the offline mode is something that will certainly grow out here in the region, definitely.
Yeah, I think the frictionless experience, or taking it and sort of immersive experience of bringing in the digital into your online offline is quite important, and we see it sort of breaking apart when we don't have those avenues for the customer, right? Especially when it comes to customer experience and then being able to get customer feedback.
Certainly.
For that kind of brings us to sort of companies going through this digitalization, right? And how, again, it has been accelerated. This is something that we're seeing. Steph, what do you think are the main considerations for businesses when they're going through this transformation?
Yeah, so e-commerce is one of the key sources of growth. We've seen traditional channels like offline sales and offline retailers in decline. So it's top priority for companies to set up an e-commerce or digital transformation and a strategy. What I would really recommend is to ensure that they know what their full company strategy is and then what role e-commerce can play to support that. It shouldn't be a standalone strategy. It needs to be completely interwoven. And for a lot of companies, e-commerce is going to be completely new. Do they know what that end goal is? Can they hire the right talent to break that strategy down and achieve the right plan to drive that forward? And that talent needs to be experienced to help change mindsets, help influence across the business to drive that change. So, you know, in summary, I think that you need to make sure that e-commerce and digital is fully integrated into your strategy to help achieve your overarching goals as a company or a brand. You need to find the right talent to help drive that, to influence your company and train your company to put that roadmap into place.
Yeah, and I think the key is there, that vision, right? The vision you talked about. Is this something that you're seeing happening with the different companies? Because what I'm seeing and what I've noticed is that the vision is there, but because there's this race to come on and get online and get commerce going, the vision gets lost, and we have segmented departments from your sales to your marketing to your operations, which have a target, but maybe it's not really, you know, the one vision.
Yeah, exactly. It's that age-old argument of commerce versus brand and marketing. If it's completely embedded and completely together, it has that seamless journey across your business that Stephen was just mentioning for buying a car. It's completely, you're changing channels, you're changing teams, you're changing touch points. If you can interweave e-commerce effectively in your business, as opposed to this shiny new thing and a project, it needs to be integral in your business model. And it needs to be aligned to, you know, the strategy and the goals to achieve your growth. So yeah, we've been seeing it, and I think there's a lot of you know, people trying to seek out the right talent in the region or turn to agencies to help, you know, get them moving and get them started.
A lot of sense. So from that, I think that the key issue that I've seen, and please chime in any time, is that how do we take the physical and the digital customer experience and make it real, right? Of course, like you're saying, it's a shiny new thing. We need to think about it as it's a business of experience. It's not just the marketing. It's not just, as you were mentioning, one or two. It's really the end-to-end journey. For me, that physical digital customer experience is very important. And I want to understand, maybe Khalil, from yourself, how is the industry responding to this? How are you seeing this change, and how are you making this and sort of bringing it into your sales journey or in your stores, or how you're selling the products?
Okay, I think it's traditionally is this region been focusing on offline, which is majority of supermarket and even wholesalers, which is also contribute a lot in Saudi Arabia. And the region which is I grown up, okay, I've seen that consumer is they have more convenience in going to the stores and they start shopping. And suddenly, okay, there is a major change has happened in the MENA region where people, they seekers for more convenience. And convenience is for them is much better for being at home or being in office and order something, and they utilize the other time and other things, which is they can have it with their families or their friends. So it become not a real important for them to really shop offline. So, and there is a behavior changes that start happening in the Arabian and the MENA region. and noticeably has happened in Saudi Arabia, where when the lockdown happened to us in March last year, I have seen and witnessed, okay, the way how the entire offline customers, okay, has moved into the online. And I will tell you one thing, which is, for example, in Saudi Arabia, Banda, they have launched their online platforms in 2 months' time. And in Nahdi, they have put up fleets, okay, for fulfillment and the last mile with a more than 200 cars, which is they can really access to the entire industry. A wholesaler, which is I never been expecting him to really come close to the e-commerce world. He said the e-commerce has saved me when I built my dark store and I built a B2B platforms into my business. So it has evolved very fast and rapidly, okay, which has really helped the entire business, okay, to really survive in a very tough time where it's been reported that's almost around 33% of the consumer uncomfortable to go to the grocery anymore. And in Saudi, for example, 60% of population, they went online and they shop online during the COVID. And all the retailers, they have seen it. It's a big shift, okay? And they have to cope themselves, okay, with a new way of how to really sell and serve the consumers. So still it's evolving stage because we look to the 3 things, which is very important to build up the capability of people who's running the e-commerce world, which is, I think will catch up very soon in the coming 2 years.
It makes a lot of sense. I think that it would be interesting to understand in that, where is it sort of breaking up, right? Where is it falling apart? Because of course it's a learning experience. A lot of these, even like the smaller companies that are moving from brick and mortar, are starting up and they're just getting into it. So it's that education, self-education, and sort of understanding of how to build that e-commerce business, because it's not just a digital platform, as you were mentioning. It is the business that's helping them to sell. It's helping them to accelerate during COVID, and kind of moving their entire customer base, distributing at least the customer base to this digital platform. But it would be interesting to understand where it's not working, right? Where we're doing things which are not working, which need to be addressed.
See, I think there is 2 areas which is we need to really focus on. The first area is we need to really build up the knowledge, okay, and transfer it, okay, with what it is for the customers to really move into the e-commerce and what is benefiting him. So this is one. So how we really educate our customers. The other one is when it comes to the infrastructure. You know, is the 2 things which is very critical in e-commerce world is the fulfillments, okay, and the last mile.
Definitely.
And maybe is a Dubai, it's an easy, especially when it comes to the last mile, because I think they've been advanced a bit in terms of so many last miles companies, which is really serving. But Saudi is a bit scattered country, which is like, okay, major city, Jeddah, Riyadh, Dammam, okay, but then you have the north and the southern region, there is still the infrastructure is not being reached. So therefore, I think there is 2 things. One is, I think, is our obligations as a leaders in this region. That's how we keep educating our customers and how to help them to build up their capabilities. And we are doing that with so many wholesalers to really convert them into B2B platforms, and also how to really identify entrepreneurs, okay, where we can really fund them and they really start. This is the fulfillments and the last mile, which is when we have time, I can tell you a story of platforms which we have created in Unilever called Unidukan in 45 days, okay, in Saudi and in UAE.
Fantastic. It's great to hear. I think that
could I just touch on the bricks to the in sales. We have a legacy model that's been there for 100 years, right? It's you come in, you purchase a car, you take it, you drive away. What we've noticed is that a lot more people now are doing more research online, so our content needs to be a lot clearer and a lot more transparent, especially out here in the region. You know, we need to be showing more about prices, understanding what the product is. So we've had to have a rethink. We had a rethink about the mobility solutions that we provide, the app, the videos, the in-store digital solutions that help you keep inside that digital journey. And we're having to create an ecosystem of products where a customer could just pick and choose. And the issue that we are having from the bricks to digital is the data sharing. So there's so much data out there on the web, being able to find out more about the behaviors of that customer. What were they looking at? What did they touch? When did they touch? What time did they view? And it's great to have that on a 360 on a customer fact sheet that we can all view. That's where the bricks to the clicks pieces. We're not getting that data inside the bricks. Once we get that, we'll be able to start this seamless, seamless journey through to sales, through to service. So that's where we're at with the journey. And I have to leave now.
Yes, thank you so much, Steve. We understand Steve has a fire to put out right now. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
For joining us.
Bye-bye, guys. Bye-bye.
Yeah, maybe Sabia, I can add to that. So the original question was more around the impact that COVID has driven on the e-commerce industry as well. So some of the things that we saw across the board were, the reduction on cash on delivery payments, more people choosing card, which helps retailers deliver more completed and more successful delivery rates, contactless deliveries, more and more companies going direct to consumer and launching their own e-commerce platforms to reach their consumers, whether that was in a short-term solutions such as WhatsApp ordering or working with marketplaces to get their shop-in-shops live. Ultimately, the landscape has shifted tremendously since the impact of COVID. We've seen things such as, grocery and F&B rapidly growing online. That was the fastest growing e-commerce channel, the rise of super apps and that on-demand and speed. The question now is not this, there's too many retailers trying to get attention from, a set range of end consumers. So it will all be around which online retailers are going to survive in this highly fragmented and competitive landscape. So this consolidation will happen, but consumers are now, so used to shopping online that it has accelerated this channel tremendously.
Yeah, and I think that your point about even just the super apps is actually quite interesting because we're seeing the huge rise in that, right? And we're seeing them everywhere. It'd be interesting to also understand where that is going because we see it. We see if people are interested, and actually even in Saudi Arabia, there's a lot of that, bringing the country together, or not only just for commerce, but also for a lot of different areas and industries that commerce is actually going across, be it self-care or others. What do you, just kind of like throwing it out there, what is your kind of view on super apps?
I think it's a growing trend, and actually I think the Middle East and North Africa is way ahead globally with this solution. So we've seen Careem, Hunger Station, InstaShop are going beyond what they originally known for. So I think it's all around, owning this audience, building trust with what, their hero and their anchor offering, and then adding on and trialing new verticals as they come. Careem's super app, I'm a huge fan. It's great, the whole ecosystem. They offer, taxis, but then they've got their loyalty points to rope in people to do their food shopping and their grocery shopping. So it'll be interesting to know if this is going to dilute their propositions or it's going to empower them further. So I think our region is one to watch with super apps, and we will be leading globally on where that goes, which is really exciting.
Yeah. It is interesting, and with a lot of the industry coming into it, it'll be interesting. So I think that leads me to what is the biggest challenge, right? Because I think everybody's trying to solve it. Everybody's trying to solve this through super apps, through sort of creating that online-offline experience. What is the biggest challenge when it comes to customer experience? And I'll direct to you, Steph, and then I'd love to hear from yourself, Khalil, as well.
Yeah, so I think when it comes to e-commerce, it should be seen holistically to deliver best-in-class customer experience. It's not just the experience on the website or the app. It's not just the marketing. It's bringing together all of these different aspects of the shopping journey. So behind the scenes, the right strategy and relationship with the retailer to access data, the right operations to make sure that your stock or your services are available in the right quantities, they're not selling out, the right product availability, the right content experience that you're giving informed and clear information at the point of purchase to inspire and encourage add to basket, and then the right marketing plan that takes people from, fast touch all the way through to point of purchase, and then the right post-purchase experience. So the right ECRM campaigns or customer services teams, contacting you afterwards. And there's so many things involved in delivering a best-in-class e-commerce customer experience. There's so many different teams. So the biggest challenge is having someone that can oversee all of that with the right experience to bring together all of those aspects holistically to deliver that end result. And what we're seeing is, potentially distributors and brand teams or agencies not fully connected. Therefore, we're putting live campaigns, and then potentially the stock isn't there, so we're not delivering the best amount. So these are common issues that are occurring, and we've seen across the board. So I think if you can get the right generalist person in place to bring together all of those different aspects, you are going to deliver best-in-class customer experience.
Yeah.
And also I would like to build something, which is the most important things is always when we look to the customer experience is how this platforms is interactive, platforms with the consumer. And also beyond that, after, the delivery taking place, how we can really keep our emotional interactions with our consumer. And this is, I think, it's required a certain techniques, built in the platforms, which keep, talking to that consumer, even they are not really shopping on the online. So I think this is something always I tell my team is don't really get something which is really a bit silence. That's I go and check in, I ask what I want, and then you are not really coming with a proposal. That's you can increase my basket size, or you can really divert me into another segment which was not in my thoughts. So how you can bring this artificial intelligence tools, which is can really interact with me beyond the time which I use the platform.
Yeah, it actually does. It does make sense. And actually, just speaking to actually both of your comments, is that it is that emotional connection, right? And it's making sure that you're getting it right, because what does experience mean? Is it the right experience when it comes to the how you're being able to purchase the product, or that you're able to interact with customer service, or you're able to just cancel your order quick enough, right? At what stage is it that we define, or the customer defines it as the best customer experience on this platform? And I think that if you look at getting it right, like Steph, you were saying, and I think Khalil, what you were also mentioning, by getting the right proposition, I think that is something to be considered. And I'm not seeing it so much so in a lot of the different companies, right? They haven't got it completely right. There are places where it's falling apart, where you have awesome fulfillment, but if you go call customer service, it falls apart there. Or the other way around, where you call contact center, great, they're there. However, they don't have your product. They don't understand the product, or they don't understand what you've received. So that disconnect is happening. How are we sort of, and sort of just going down that line, how are we sort of supporting from the retailer perspective, as well as sort of the industry, and how we're looking at helping them out? Do we see where it's working? Because I've seen both.
Look, if you're going to think of a player that has done it well, look, Amazon has set the benchmark high. They've set, the clear strategy. The teams are trained on it. Everything's connected. One version of truth everyone's tapping into. All teams are working in the same way to deliver the end user a strong customer experience. So they've set the bar high, and it's one to replicate and steal with pride for sure.
Yeah. So when I was thinking about that, Amazon is the only one that actually came to mind, because you do have that one click, and you can cancel, you can get customer service, and they know you, and they know where you are. So yeah, it would be interesting to see that replicated here.
Also, something which is we need to really understand, Amazon, when they started in 1994. And when they break even in 2003. So when they build the business, they spend like a quality 9 years, to really get this model right. And where they are today is like 50% of the entire, e-commerce in United States, which is 3 times, I would say, is the Arab GDP. So the message which I want to make here is how to really have a mindset with the continuous improvements. So that means you can master it, and always you you revisit the entire customer journey and keep asking a feedback and get this feedback and improve it further on and on and on. And things will be helping the entire process while they are in that journey.
Makes sense. And that kind of like leads us into sort of marketing, right? What do we really think about value and what kind of value we're creating for business and for customers? Khalil, what are you thinking that retailers need to consider when they think about the customer retention strategies that they're putting in place?
The most important thing is they should really not to lose these customers. They should really retain the customers, because losing a customers, it will cost you, like in Harvard Business Review, they said it's around 25 times will cost you to really get it. So the more you are closer to your customers, listening and getting the feedback from customers, it always will help you to really increase the way how we are interacting with them. And also we should really have a scorecards, okay, which is really can tell you and measure as KPIs, which is really can drive a decision making in the organization. And one of them is the KPIs, which is about the current, which is losing customers. Okay, and if you don't really find out the root cause behind it and you don't really sort it out, it might really amplify, and it can be a big issue for the company. So getting closer to the customers and analyze, okay, with all the tools you have, I think it will help you to prevent those type of losing customers.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that, you know, we're thinking about retention, but if you can deliver a best-in-class fast experience for the shopper, you've really nailed what your e-commerce value proposition is and why someone should buy from you. And then they have a positive end-to-end shopping experience on your platform or from your app, then this will lead to, you know, a positive post-purchase experience. They'll be thinking of you to return. And then you can layer on these retention programs, whether that's retargeting, your eCRM program, and later down the line, once you've built your audiences, developing, you know, a best-in-class loyalty program, offers and points, or, you know, what other benefits that you can offer that offer relevancy to your audience base to get them to come back and shop again. And I know Amazon is an easy one to point to again, but they make sure that every experience is a great one. And if it's not, you know, they have the best-in-class customer experience and customer service offering to make it a positive experience. And then they layer on their programs such as Prime to lock people in and develop that loyalty. And we've seen, you know, the likes of Kareem bring in their loyalty program as well to mirror that program. So I think you need to nail the first shopping experience, build your audiences, understand who they are, develop the right marketing plan to re-engage, and then layer on that with a loyalty program once you've built and got to that critical size.
Makes a lot of sense, kind of like a sandwich. Make sure you got the experience right. Make sure you're going to be giving the right offers at the right time, and make sure you kind of put the next bun at the underneath, which is just going to be about making sure you have the right retention programs and have the continuous loyalty. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So I think that there is something to do with something real about personalization and hyper-personalization. In the retention model, what we're talking about, it does sort of strike me, and the question would really be, I think a lot of people are also considering, is it hyper-personalization that's relevant and important, or do we think that you know, a correlated proposition is the same, or is it enough? Khalil, would you be able to
I will answer this one and give you a real life example. And back in 2019, I want to really experience the real digital world. So I have Instagram, and Instagram, I just really like something, which is Columbia University came with a program. I said, I love it. Okay, then after a day, I found Columbia, MIT, Harvard, and everything. So that's me. And there is a back end, some artificial and algorithm is working, okay, and personalize something on content, which I want to really see in these platforms. And this is where it's really, they kept really sending me different promotions, okay, which is, I like one of them, and I joined MIT on this one of the program, which is the Advanced Management and Entrepreneurial Skills. And then I start really experience it furthermore. So I start shifting from education to fashion. Then I moved from fashion to singers, okay, and arts. And then I have seen the way how is the machine learning start really, okay, giving me something which is really what I need. So it's very important for a business like e-commerce to really come out and personalize something which is really cater the needs, okay, of the user. And so many people, they have a certain questions. Are you collecting a data? Actually, they are not collecting your personal data or they breach your privacy. Actually, they are really creating a cohort and segments, okay, which is really caters that particular needs.
Sure. It makes a lot of sense. And it touches on the AI sort of driven marketing as well. That I think commerce is really based on, and it's actually moving towards as well with data, along with, you know, how we're answering and responding to operations. From an e-commerce perspective, just kind of going a little bit deeper into a marketer's view, what do you feel right now, and Steph, maybe to you, how are marketers best executing the best-in-class experience, and how are they selling through maybe different partners in retail sites like Amazon, Noon, InstaShop, and where do you see that going? Because it is something that's come up.
Yeah, sure. So I think, again, working with, if you are selling indirectly with retail partners like Amazon or Noon, it's essential to make sure you've got the basics in place. So have you checked out your product range? Is it all listed as you expect? Are all the products available? Do you have the best content? So you're driving organic findability to rank in search. And then how are you layering on retail media to disrupt the shopper in a busy shopping environment so people consider your products within that space? And then beyond that, how are you using certain formats, so shoppable media formats, Facebook collab ads, or, you know, the likes of that we can track from awareness and marketing right through to purchase in a seamless manner, with no digital dead ends. So I think it's all around, you know, ensuring the basics are fixed, you've got the right content, your products are available in the right amount. Secondly, really understanding their retail media that's available to disrupt and stand out ahead of your competition. And then looking at the offsite media options that are available. So co-op, collab, shoppable media formats that can drive that seamless journey from awareness right through to purchase.
And also this IA is becoming very essential in marketing team to really make a decision, as you said, especially from media buying or the user segmentations, or even in terms of comes on forecasting and calculate the return on investments on the projected forecast as well.
Yeah, and I think that speaking to that, it makes the question that I'm hearing, and what I think a lot of people wonder is that who is the right person to partner with, right? We can put our products on Amazon, or we can put our products on Noon, and what's the right proposition? I'm seeing that strategic thinking, and that is where there's a lot of support needed. Have you seen things like this? Because it's either I put it on a partner site or I create my own site, and there's a tension between what they should be doing.
Yeah, look, it all comes down to your channel strategy. What is the role of all of your routes to market in your business, offline, your own direct to consumer proposition, and then each of your retail partners? How are you using these to get to your end goal? How are they differentiated? And how are you building winning partnerships with your retailers? Are they collaborative? Are they working with you to unlock joint business plans that are helping to accelerate, you know, joint goals, you as a brand and them as a retailer, to develop this space? So we would always work with our clients to map out the market. Who are the retailers? What is the right distribution strategy? What is the right channel strategy? And how are you going to differentiate your experience within each of those channels to meet the end shopper mission goals? And that plan then, you know, drips down to how you activate. And then ultimately it lines back up to what is your end goal, your revenue goal. So yeah.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I think it is about thinking about the end-to-end business and what your experience and how you want to define it, for sure. Since we're almost finished with this session, I wanted to ask you guys, just off the cuff, where do you see, looking forward, where do you see that that we are going? What is the future of commerce, and what do you put your bet on, right? What is it that you think we need to consider and we need to watch out for?
Yeah, it's a really big one. So I think it all comes down to being able to own your audiences. If you don't have a direct to consumer proposition, can you adapt your brand? Can you innovate your business model to be able to own the relationship with your end consumer, whether you're a B2B distributor and you're setting up your own contact system to be able to interact online with your end players, or whether you're a traditionally, an FMCG player that's always relied on end retailers. I feel like the disruption that's going to happen, particularly in our region, is brands and companies opening up their own direct-to-consumer proposition and owning that end-to-end experience, building their data,
From my point of view, I think there is very clear what I've seen, that the evolutions and where this business is heading in the MENA region. Marketplace, which is really serve the route to market, is one thing, okay, gonna happen. We like it, we don't like it. And it's all about the pure B2B, and this is really gonna make a big disruptions in the markets. We have seen it and noticed it in UAE with the Bygro. We've seen it in Asari in Saudi Arabia, and it is in line with also the government's also visions in terms of really transforming and having clear transactions and also transparency in the money movements as well. And for companies like us in Unilever, this is going to help us to really reduce our cost. And this is a big shift. The other one I can see a big shift, which is, I think, the D2C, this is direct to the consumer, because, companies, they come out with their own platforms and they try to really cater something. I told you I'm going to talk to you about the Unidukan, which is a platform we created in 45 days, which is catered only to the employees of corporates. So we give them a certain discount, which is better than the available in the offline. And this is how we can really reward, okay, the certain employees in particular corporates, okay, to really buy and experience Unilever products. And we have seen that, when we recruit like Saudi Airline into these platforms, and Saudi Airline, they said, oh, can we really market and have a banners on your platform? We said, yes, you can do it. We give it to you now free, but tomorrow you're gonna pay for it. So I think this can become another way how this business will be evolved further more, okay, with the B2B and B2C. This is, I've seen it.
Makes a lot of sense, Khalil. And Steph and Khalil, thank you so much. I think that's exactly it. I do agree, and actually it would be really good to watch out what it is when it comes to sort of data-driven or AI-driven or intelligent platforms. I am seeing, as you guys are both mentioning, the marketplace on steroids, right? And it is that entire ecosystem play where we're seeing people partner up. Nobody's doing it alone. They're basically partnering up and then expanding, right? So I think that we have a lot to look forward to. And actually, I'd love to continue this conversation, but we are at time's up. And I will thank you guys for being here. And thank you so much for letting me moderate this. It was quite an experience. And I'll hand it over. Austin, I think you're there. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. That was absolutely amazing. We ran a little bit over time, and I wish that we could have an awful lot more time. We don't have time for questions, but I would encourage everybody to reach out to our amazing panelists to find out more, and that goes for the second panel as well. Everybody's pretty easily available on social media and things. Yeah, that was absolutely brilliant. Really interesting insights. I noted down a lot of them. Obviously don't have time to sum it up, but I think my favorite one was that e-commerce is like a sandwich. Definitely holistic approach seems to be the trick. Now, we've looked at things from a sort of consumer experience point of view, and next we're going to look at things from more of a brand point of view. So I'd like to introduce our next panel, and joining me now, or joining us now, are Gulraz Alam, who's the Chief Investment Officer and Strategy Officer at Arabi Ads, Peter De Benedictis, CMO of Marketing of Microsoft, Stacey Fisher, Amash Malik, and Mittal Shah. And in fact, Gulraz, I'm going to let you, I won't take up any more of your time, I will let you introduce your dream team. So please, over to you, and I'm going to get my notebook out again and sit back and enjoy this. Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Austin. I hope I'm audible. All right. So Austin, we're starting about roughly 8 minutes late. So I'm going to request you if we can get 8 minutes extra because I needed to cover a lot of things. But let me start actually by thanking Kaplan Middle East and Austin for organizing this discussion, and also his team members, Stuart and Anusha, for making this happen. Guys, really appreciate it. And let me start with the introduction of my wonderful panel, and actually with the lady. We only have one lady in the panel, so let me welcome Stacy Fisher. Stacy has about, thank you, Stacy. Stacy has about 16 years of experience in the advertising industry. She's worked with diverse set of clients across USA and Middle East, and currently responsible as the head of digital transformation and innovations at Publicis Group, a company that I've personally worked for a number of years. And apart from advising on digital transformation, she's also passionate about wake surfing and hiking. She's already done the Everest base camp. Glad to have you, Stacy.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
All right. Next up, we have Peter. Peter has over 26 years of experience across various industries, ranging from real estate to logistics to healthcare, and now working with Microsoft as the CMO. Peter is passionate about biking.
Yeah, thanks. Looking forward to a good conversation. Biking is in the last 3 months, by the way. It's in 2021, get fit, and biking seems to be the best way until the heat kicks in.
Oh, absolutely, to enjoy the beautiful Dubai weather.
Absolutely.
All right, next up we have Amash Malik. Amash is the director for performance advertising at Bayot Group with extensive experience in the Middle East, and he's also passionate about technology.
Thank you, Gulrez, for the introduction, and looking forward to the conversation.
Pleasure to have you, buddy. And finally, I have Mithil. Mithil Shah. He has a management degree from one of the top B schools in India, and currently is spearheading the digital marketing at Center Point from Landmark Group. And he's also passionate about cooking. So we have a chef in the panel as well.
Yeah, lunch is on me, guys, after this. Thanks
for sure, man. All right. Thank you so much, panelists, for your time today. And let's make this an interesting and innovative session for all the audience. I normally like to start my discussion with a fun question. And my fun question for today is, tell me about your latest purchase online, since we are talking about e-commerce. What was the latest purchase that you did, and how was the brand experience? And let me start again with the lady on the panel, Stacy.
Okay, so speaking of getting fit, I actually bought 2 kg dumbbells on Amazon, and my experience was quite great because I'm a Prime member, so it was pretty seamless.
Fantastic. How about Amash?
So I have a 2-year-old kid, so I bought some toys for him very recently, again from Amazon.
We have a couple of loyal customers from Amazon already. How about Mithil?
Well, one of my passion is cooking, so I bought a lot of groceries, like I do every week. So yeah, Choetram is my choice, and InstaShop is my choice. I love shopping online. I mean, 2020 really converted me into an online shopper when it comes to grocery, and I've not looked back from there.
I think 2020 has converted all of us as the online shopper, and we're going to talk about more about the consumer trends. Finally, Peter.
Yeah, it's funny. This is unscripted, but I actually bought a tennis racket yesterday. So there you go. And it's kind of one of those. I went to brick and mortar, saw some options. It was pretty expensive. I went online. I saw it for 30% cheaper. I bought it online. It was here in a week. So I had to wait a week, but I got a huge price difference. So it's a interesting one. Great. It's the brick and mortar retailer really lost out by overpricing the product. Maybe they have a lot of more overheads than the online, but ultimately they lost out on a sale. I ended up buying the same thing for 25% cheaper.
Correct. You want to name the brand where you shopped, and how was the online experience?
Actually, it's not a brand. It's not a well-known. It's a wholesaler of tennis rackets. I don't even remember the name. So there you go. It was more about the product than it was about the e-commerce side. I felt comfortable that they looked, frankly, a little dodgy. I looked at the same thing on Amazon. It was a little bit more expensive, but I went for it, and the delivery time was slightly longer, but I got it, and it's perfect.
All right, Peter, you touched an interesting topic, which is the challenges that typically a brick and mortar business would face. Let me take another input from you on that. Microsoft, traditionally a brick and mortar business. How have you evolved the e-commerce business? Tell us some of the initiatives.
Yeah, so I don't know if I'd say that we are a traditional e-commerce business. I think what we do is we enable e-commerce and enable our partners and customers to get online fast, and not just to stand up traditional websites, but to use things like machine learning, artificial intelligence, chatbot in a seamless, easy way to create data lakes, which is actually really where the real value comes for e-commerce customers. I can tell you how we've evolved as a company. Traditionally, we used to sell licenses 3 years. The old timers who are on this call will recall the days of the CD or buying Windows in a box and coming home and uploading. You buy a Windows or Office license, 3 or 4 years later, it's obsolete, and you got to go buy the same thing again. And we realized that was not very customer centric. So we moved to a Netflix model effectively, where it's a subscription. You buy Office 365 now, you pay by month, pay by what you use. That's far more customer centric. It's more user friendly. You get a perpetual license, which you're paying every month for, but your upgrades are automatic and automated. Now, your PC may never be able to keep up 4 or 5 years later with the upgrades that we put in, but from a Microsoft perspective, it's a far better experience. And in fact, our cloud offerings now, which are also available on a retail basis, you can pay by the consumption of data per day versus having to buy a big upfront commitment. So I would say our model from an e-commerce perspective is very much about enabling self-service, removing the technical challenges, pay for what you use, not for what we or another company may force upon you in terms of features. As an example, we had teams in millions of PCs around the world that nobody knew was there. And when online work came in, they just had to enable it, turn it on, and suddenly they're into online learning or online collaboration. So that's kind of how we've evolved into a more customer-centric, more e-commerce focused organization, on top of everything that we do for the millions of online retailers around the world.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And if I have to ask you specifically on the numbers, since we are all talking about e-commerce and specific on numbers, what percentage of e-commerce business, as in total business, comes from the e-commerce for Microsoft? Any rough idea?
I think you'll have to ask me a sports question. We don't disclose that information publicly. What I can tell you is in this time last year, we had about 500 million meeting minutes on Teams. We crossed 5 billion in December. 5 billion daily meeting minutes. So you talk about digital transformation and how, as a sort of benchmark for how much people have moved to online, that's one that's publicly available. It's massive. You're talking about 100-fold, and 5 billion is not a small number.
Oh, absolutely. And since we were talking about digital transformation, let me take input from Stacy. Stacy, you're responsible for digital transformation across various categories of your client, and specifically for Middle East. We have the highest, and I would not say highest, but we're at least beating the global growth rate of e-commerce, which is globally is about 12%. In Middle East, we are growing at about roughly 20%. But when it comes to your set of clients, what are the typical challenges that they face, and how are you advising them?
Yeah, so it really depends upon the client in terms of their maturity and the set of challenges that they face. because we have clients that are, perhaps nascent within their journey of, getting online and shifting their inventory online. And we have clients that are more complex that have, partnered with the e-retailers and the marketplaces. So it totally is client dependent. However, if I could touch on a couple of the challenges, I think one of the biggest challenges stems from, a lack of investment in data. So there's still a lot of disconnected data sources, and this is, increasingly more important, specifically with, cookies, us shifting to a cookieless future and the relevance of unifying your single customer ID. So still there's a lot of work. I know we talk about it so much in all of these panels, forums, etc. But data is still something that I think people have a long ways to go. And it's not just from a unification standpoint, it's also from a taxonomy standpoint. And then finally, it's from the standpoint of actually leveraging that data. So, how can you not only make your advertising more relevant to your consumers, but how can you also invest in loyalty, which I think is something that is even more important post-pandemic, or I guess mid-pandemic, whatever you think we're in these days, because the share of wallet has really decreased. A second challenge that we face in terms of transformation with our clients is from an organizational level. So this is oftentimes within the client side, the way that their organizational structure is, it can yield inefficiencies. So whether it's an inefficiency from consolidating marketing budgets, or it's an inefficiency from, teams not communicating with each other, or teams not sharing data, we've often seen that this type of disorganization can yield other issues, and it's a compounding effect from there. However, it's not, all doom and gloom. I think that, in this past year, we have seen a lot within digital transformation. And one thing that I certainly feel encouraged by is that when I first moved to this region, everybody was really talking about it and there was very little action. But I think now, everybody had no choice but to take action. So I feel really inspired and encouraged that, more and more we're going to see clients that are willing to, fearlessly take a leap of faith and try something new and explore areas that they maybe were a little bit cautious to enter before.
All right, thank you, Stacey. And you mentioned about data, and I have a very interesting data point from Mithil actually. But before I ask a question to Mithil, I see some of the audience members are asking the questions. So audience, please keep the questions flowing. I hope I will be able to cover in a short time. All right, Mithil, data point for you. When I was doing a little bit of research now, I realized that in Middle East, roughly 60% of consumers would prefer COD, cash on delivery, versus making a transaction online. And you come from Landmark Group, one of the biggest e-commerce group in the region. Is that the main issue? Is that the main challenge?
I think so. Digital adoption, yes, 2020 has put that at real speed within across all the consumers, the way they adopt digital for entertainment or for services or for purchase. But I think the real issue is looking at the supply chain challenges that we have. So while COD is more of a habitual change that we have in the region, but that will only go when overall things change, the consumption and the exchange of physical money changes. But we cannot wait for that overall aspect to change. So hence the shift is more on how do we get all our inventory data in one place? How do we get all our customer data in one place, like Stacey said, and really see how these two data centers are talking to each other. And we anticipate demand in certain areas and we anticipate demand in certain cities before the sales actually do happen. Because Landmark has, at least Centerpoint has more than 80 stores. Landmark has more than 150 stores. The stores are we work in a hub and spoke model. So the warehouses are hubs, our stores are our spoke models. And the way we need to talk to the systems need to talk between all of these warehouses, plus we need to pass on data to our vendors and what data we get back from them at the time of delivery. So this entire system is in play, but it's going to be a big challenge to resolve this. And I think Peter is in a very good position to actually, deliver this kind of solutions in the region, I guess.
No, totally agree with you, Mithil. And I guess logistics, which is actually delivering the good to the consumer, is the backbone of e-commerce, right? I mean, we always talk about the growth in the e-commerce, but I would also encourage audience to look at the growth in the e-commerce related industries, be it logistics or something else.
Yeah.
All right. We're talking a lot about data, and we have Amash. Amash is the head of performance. Amash, tell me, how do you bring about the disruption and reinvention in your day-to-day work when you're looking at this data? How does this data translates and you're able to bring about innovations?
So I think I can very much relate with the earlier points mentioned by all of the speakers. So data, like I think data culture or data-driven culture is the one thing which everyone or all of us needs to cultivate. Because that is what shapes the products we deliver, the strategy we work on, or even the marketing. Everything generally, at least for us, is data driven. And I think, as Stacey mentioned, that we, at least from our side, we invest lots of efforts, lots of investment into data integrity, security, organization in a way which is meaningful for not only a very technical person, but also for across the organization who can then understand the data and then use that to build more better products, or even better pricing recommendation systems, or targeted approach in terms of marketing strategy. So I think that is important. And then I think Peter also mentioned about being customer centric. And I think that is also very crucial to this, because I think Mithil can better relate, but let's take an example of phone calls or in-store purchases. These used to be in the recent past, like these were considered as something which is offline, but now these are very much part of the digital mix, because like you have a loyalty program. Let's say if I take the example of Centerpoint, you have a phone number or email ID attached to that, and that helps to profile a customer, which ultimately helps deliver better products, better recommendations, and even better marketing strategies.
Amash, I'm not sure if the username, which is basically the name of the user or the email ID or the mobile number, should act as the unique identifier, because we don't have the GDPR in the region as yet, but it's not going to be a lot of time before the GDPR comes to this region.
That's right.
So we
That's
all,
right.
as marketers, need to evolve to figure out what is that unique identifier for a particular user is going to be. I'm going to cover that in some time. But let me jump back to Peter. Peter, my question to you, because we all talk about disruption and innovations, and specifically for big brands, they have big budgets. But my question to you specifically is that how Microsoft is enabling small businesses, and I would say small and medium level businesses, which are essentially traditional, to move online. If you can share some of the initiatives there, that'll be good.
Yeah, I think it's a great one, right? The internet is, and I just answered a question in the online. Someone is asking, how can a small candy company get online or operate if they, and my answer is any company can get online, either directly, which and it's not expensive to stand up a website and start to market digitally. It's very easy. If I can do it, anybody can do it. So Microsoft specifically, though, is doing a bunch of things. One is enabling a partner ecosystem that, within 24 hours, any company can go to Microsoft Partner, stand up a website, an e-commerce site, and start trading. They can easily get online and advertise on Bing or other search platforms. There's a bigger one that we all know. They can get up and running very, very quickly and start advertising their product and start selling globally. Talking about supply chain, every express, most express courier companies operate in every country in the world that you'd want to sell to. So there's a huge ecosystem that Microsoft enables through Azure, our cloud platform, as well as our partner ecosystem. So that's one thing. The second thing is that we have a very robust startup program we call Microsoft for Startups, where we help through a variety of different mechanisms, young startups born in the cloud type of businesses to get up and running and get scale. That's through technical support, Azure credits, introduction to VCs and funders, et cetera, to enable great ideas to get scale very fast. And we have an office here in the UAE as well that we partner with the Abu Dhabi Digital Authority to get stood up, and Mubadala and others to really enable the ecosystem. So I think those are three real concrete examples. Another one I would say is we are sort of pioneering this idea of low code or no code applications, which again, a non-coder can stand up and build onto their website. For example, you can stand up on your own a chatbot on an e-commerce website, literally 24, 48 hours, either yourself or using a partner, relatively low cost, and can bring you lots of interesting insights. And that's linked to the other question I answered on the chat. Well, if you don't have cookies, how do you get data? Well, stand up a chatbot on your website, and you can suddenly get direct information from your customers, and the insights can be pretty interesting. So those are some other ways. And the last thing I will say is our data is showing that within the next 10 years, 500 billion new apps will be created, and most of those will be low code, no code type of apps. So the world is becoming super enabled very fast, and Microsoft is very much part of that trend.
Fantastic, Peter. I think you practically have given a roadmap for people in the audience who are looking at getting online. So low code, no code, get your product ready, have a fintech solution. And as Peter mentioned, a number of initiatives, either from VCs or from different authorities which are helping you do business online. So, and thank you again, Peter, for answering the questions on the chat. All right, let me jump to Mithil. Mithil, I think Stacey also touched upon this earlier, and these days you cannot have a panel discussion without discussing the impact of the COVID. Again, I have a number for you. We were talking about e-commerce. There was a research that we were supposed to touch $50 billion in Middle East by 2025. And because of the adoption or the early adoption, we are likely to touch $50 billion by 2022. So basically 3 years advancement in the size of the market. I should not be, but I'm saying it is a crisis, but it is also an opportunity, right? I mean, for a lot of e-commerce businesses, it has become an opportunity. So let me ask this question to you. For Landmark Group, how are you translating this opportunity, and what does this mean for you?
So for the Landmark Group, and coming from Centerpoint, we've always, so we started the e-commerce back in 6-7 years back for Landmark Group, and then we transformed into having individual omni-channel businesses, whereas Centerpoint being one of the largest omni-channel business in the region. And from that perspective, we were ready in terms of at least delivering the customer a complete quality experience while they were shopping online. What the real challenge really came through is that, again, going back to the supply chain, because when there's a lockdown, our SLAs go for a toss, right? We have to move very quickly to deliver those products at the customers where the customers need it at. And that has been the real challenge in the lockdown. It's not, I don't think so. And as Peter said, it's very easy now, even for big firms or big corporates such as ours, to reach new customers. And what COVID and the impact of COVID has done is that more and more people are there online, more and more apps, 500 billion, sorry, Peter, 500 billion apps are going to get launched in the next few years. That gives us advertisers even more opportunity to reach our customers. So reaching a customer is not going to be that challenging. It's about ultimately through our marketing channels, through our marketing experiences, what do we deliver in terms of ROI? Because traditionally in brick and mortar, we focused a lot in terms of our ROI. We focused a lot in terms of bottom funnel, where visibility investments are typically taken much I mean, most of the visibility has been taken in terms of the pure online players. They focus more on visibility and bottom funnel together. But that is the advantage. And I think from a Landmark Group's perspective, we have the loyalty program, which is Shukran. And that's really been at the heart of all our customer data. That's really been at the heart of the overall experience. And following as per the GDPR guidelines, so on, we map our customers to the Shukran IDs. So there is no personal data, privacy is all in check. And we need to basically break the silos between online and offline. And that is the main challenge and the opportunity in the coming years, I think.
And I wish you all the best. If you can do the single window of the customer across offline and online, I think it's going to be fantastic. But since you touched a topic on this diverse adoption, let me jump back to Amash. Amash, COVID has also led to a lot of consumption by users, right? I mean, we all are consuming more and more content, right? Whether it's the OTTs, or whether it's the music platforms, or different sort of consumption, which also for a marketer like you presents a huge challenge. Your marketing mix earlier is very different from what is it today because a huge adoption of internet. Throw some light on how you are deciding your marketing mix.
Sure, absolutely. That's spot on. So I'll share some stats. So for example, when the pandemic initially kicked in about a year back, and then lockdown happened in UAE. So many of the categories, and this happened like across the world, the businesses, there was uncertainty. So we saw a dip in our traffic, but some of the categories, for example, goods and individual, it ramped up very, very quickly because people were also sort of selling, which is the supply part, and then the demand also shot up. So it ramped up significant, like it exceeded the baseline numbers as well very quickly. So generally, and even on our marketing front, what we saw was far greater reach in terms of available impressions, which is directly tied into the number of people who were now online during that span. Which ultimately meant that since we were already highly adopted in terms of our marketing on digital, the strategy focused heavily on digital, but this also enabled us to reach more and more audience, which we would not have been able to in the normal circumstances. So as you mentioned, there was a challenge, which still is, by the way, but there was an opportunity in it as well.
Fantastic. Totally agree with you. Stacey, you touched upon this topic earlier that there was a lot of transformation that was planned, but COVID, as an opportunity, if I can call it, actually aggravated that adoption. So in your experience with the set of clients that you are advising, what percentage, if you can throw some numbers around, what percentage of these advertisers and digital transformation journey was actually due to COVID versus it was planned and actually got implemented?
Sorry, can you repeat the last part about the COVID?
Sure. You mentioned earlier that there was a lot of digital transformation, which typically an advertiser would be adopting, right? I mean, they already have plans for embracing digital transformation, but there are two parts to it, right? I mean, they had plans which would have gotten implemented, let's say, over a year or 2 years, but suddenly COVID, because the brands had to recover, they had to respond, they had to re-innovate. A lot of this happened quickly, right? In your experience, what percentage of your advertisers would have done this only because of COVID?
I mean, I don't know if I really have a percentage. I would say it's a toss-up. But what I will say about the focus of digital transformation throughout 2020 shifted to UX, UI, SEO, and really focusing on optimizing the organic visibility of clients' assets. So instead of dumping a bunch of dollars into paid media, clients shifted their focus and were more interested on how can they organically increase their visibility, organically get customers to their platforms or to their apps, and shift them through the purchase funnels. So I think that's where, when it comes to the end-to-end transformation spectrum that we at Publicis deliver to our clients as consultants, we really cover it all. But what I can say is that, we had such a massive uptick in this area. and we've been focusing on it a lot.
Fantastic. I think there was a discussion earlier about the cookie-less world. So while we are talking about disruption and reinvention in the e-commerce world, there is a disruption happening in our own digital advertising world with the cookie-less. So as a CMO, Peter, to get the unified view of the users without cookies, without IDFA, what are you doing?
So our position as a company is that we support privacy, right? Privacy is a fundamental human right. And anything that gets us closer to user generated, user opt-in knowingly in an easy way is something that we support as a company. It's a fundamental right. And, I think we've been pretty vocal as an organization globally saying, if you're, making your customer the product and they don't even know it, then maybe there's something wrong with the foundations of your business. I said in the chat, there are many, many ways of acquiring customer information besides cookies. Will it be harder? Yes. Will we have to learn new techniques? Yes. Will we have to be more transparent with potential customers around what we're doing with their data, what they're really opting in for? Yes. Will that mean I will lose some visibility on sort of an end-to-end customer journey? Potentially. But if your product is sound, if your customers know what they're buying from you, the customers know what they're opting in for, then I think it's a good thing overall. And as a brand, that's the way we look at it. I mean, all of us, I think, here on this call are based in the UAE. How many times have you been called by a bank for a credit card or a loan recently? Not even your own bank. There's no privacy protection. How many times have you been on a site the day after an interesting conversation about a product and it lands up in your social media feed? That's creepy. That's made, and I personally, as an individual, I applaud the fact that we're moving to a more privacy world. Our company has the same position. It will be harder for marketers, but marketers by nature are, diligent, ingenious, they're creative, and they will find ways to engage customers and understand the impact of their marketing. I have no doubt about that, but they'll do it in a way that is not invasive and doesn't take advantage of the naivety of their customers.
All right, and Peter, totally agree about the the receiving of the calls, and they typically would call you at about 8:30, saying that now we could call you. So totally agree. But you touched upon a topic which is very important for Mithil, that you end up browsing a product, and trust me, it's not even after a day. It's in technical terms, it's called remarketing. And for a brand or for any e-commerce business, a remarketing solution either can be in the same session, which means you are still browsing the product after, let's say, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hour. It depends on what window the advertiser gives it to the platform. So with that, I'm going to jump back on Mithil. Mithil, it's going to be really hard for you. I know it's so important for an e-commerce business to customize the user experience, right? Typically, if I'm browsing a product, I don't end up consuming that product in the same session. I might be doing a research on another platform and I would like to come back on it, right? And that's where you come in, which is the remarketing aspect of it. In a cookie-less world, without an IDFA, what are you looking at and how are you looking at getting that unified customer experience?
So I think I think one of the most important aspect is to, and this goes more towards creating segments. And because in a segment, we need to have all the information, not necessarily we need to have a lot of private information of the customers, but there are certain traits and attributes of a shopping journey that a set of group of customers show, and that we bucket that into certain segments. And that's how then we deliver a more personalized solution. So whether that's personalized through, let's say, our website, on our product pages, whether that's personalized through our ads, whether that's personalized through even through a chatbot, because we need to be there, we need to deliver where the customer is engaging with multiple apps, multiple digital journeys. And conversational commerce is one thing where we can provide a more personalized, more private experience to the customers, right from discovery till the conversion. And at the same time, even through our websites, even through our marketing channels, at the end of the day, yes, there is the pixels are, I mean, I, as a marketer, would not want to be outside the pixelless world, but yes, it is going to be a challenge, and we will have to find a way, because we are at the, we've already entered that era with iOS, right? With the iOS 14 update.
Right.
So only time will say how we can find new ways to market and at the same time drive ROI.
No, absolutely. We'll come up with some innovation. And interestingly, I'm going to put you a spot because you mentioned about web versus app. And I want to give this data point to my audience. If you can throw a number or probably a range, that what percentage of landmark business would come in from web versus app? Possibly a range.
I think more than landmark business, e-commerce itself is more than 95% on mobile. And most of
web or app?
On app. Most of
Okay.
I was a majority of that, those sales come from apps. So there's no doubt, and we've seen this trend across the sector and across the region more than 2 years back. And we all have hopped onto it to drive more of mobile engagement and mobile experiences. And this is to stay, right? This is how we are going to move forward. And it's not going to be only experiences on through our apps, but it's also going to be where we can deliver through other native apps, and where we can deliver an end-to-end commerce experience through another native apps, through, let's say, Instagram or through TikTok or through any other social media platform.
Burberry has launched a social store. Check it out in China. And talking about that, I want to ask Amash, any global examples, because the discussion today is about the reinvention and disruption. Any global examples, either in your own industry or anything else that you want to share about highlighting the disruption?
Sure. So I think generally, like the key takeaway for the last year for me personally has been being speed and delivery, being growth driven, and then ownership. So for example, Ford Motors, I think in March or April last year, they announced that they will be making face shields, which they never did before. So it takes some courage to do things which are not in a usual path, but like times are definitely fraught, but it does not mean that we cannot deliver, we cannot achieve certain things. And it also links to a general organizational change which we very well adopted to, was to not micromanage. It was to empower the operational workforce, to remove the barrier between the leadership and the frontline team, so they feel more empowered and have more ownership of things, which ultimately leads to more speed. So we used to say that fortune favors the brave, but now I think it's fortune favors the brave and speedy.
And innovative. Stacy, the same question to you. Any global brands that you follow, and I'll give you a context of it. I was recently exposed to, we have something called as live shopping in the e-commerce, right? And in China, they do a lot of innovations. I was recently exposed to a pre-programmed avatar that will go live, and people are shopping because of that. So it's not really a celebrity, but it's a pre-programmed animated avatar, which uses a fantastic amount of motion technology, and people are following that and doing the shopping with that. Any global examples that you want to highlight for the audience, which is very innovative and disruptive?
I mean, to be honest with you, I don't have a lot of global examples that really come to mind, but I will focus on e-commerce because that is what the topic of the discussion is. But when you back up and look at e-commerce as a whole, there's two key things that really shine out to me as big markers of progression. The first is that China has become the first country to have the majority of retail sales made online. So that just really shows how they as a country, and all of the capabilities that they have within their country have really accelerated in the times of the pandemic. The second thing is relative to the US, and that is that literally for e-commerce, they registered a decade of growth in just 8 weeks. And that's phenomenal, because when you look at, growth that's that big in that short of amount of time, it really shows that it's here to stay. And further, there's another dissection of that, again, digging into the US e-commerce scene, because I think that it's quite relevant to the people that are on the phone today that are in the MENA region, is that, with consumer behavior now sitting on the 2030 trend line, the companies that were behind the times pre-pandemic have a lot of catching up to do in order to meet the consumer where they lie in terms of wanting to shop online, wanting to interact online, and just in general shifting their behavior to the online ecosystem. The second impact that this has within e-commerce that I've seen, again, within the US market, that I think is also relevant for our market, is that if you're in essential retail, your goods are more essential than ever. And so what that means is that you have to, really focus on, making the consumer journey even more seamless compared to your competitors, because essential retail is where everybody is buying, and that's where everybody is buying online. So the companies that will win in this space are those that are focusing on making it as seamless as possible. Shifting into the second category is discretionary retail. So, with the pandemic, we've seen really a two-way shift with essential and discretionary. And if you're in discretionary retail, your goods are more discretionary than ever. So this means that, different e-commerce players, if you are in discretionary retail, I think that you need to focus more on capturing the attention and the mind and the heart of the consumer to convince them that the discretionary purchase is worth it. So from my side, it's not like I can name any one thing, but it's a general shift that I've seen in the US that I think is highly applicable to the MENA region.
All right, thank you so much, Stacey. And I have a surprise for my panel, and I know Peter has to drop, so I'll start with Peter. I call this a rapid fire round, and give me your honest, unapologetic, and non-diplomatic answers. And one of you will get a chance to win a gift hamper. And for my audience, this is your chance to know the panel up close and personal. And I know because Peter has to leave, so Peter, I'll start with you. I'm looking essentially for one-line answer. What percentage of your traffic comes from mobile, web versus desktop? Mobile versus desktop. You can pass.
Don't pass, and I actually don't know the answer, to be honest. But I would say on the B2B side, it skews heavy to desktop. Still, we're not a business that people buy on mobile. On web traffic, probably will follow industry trends, but we don't track that, to be very honest. Not for our commercial parts of our business.
All right. First, advertising dollars to TV, outdoor, Google, Facebook, or any other channel. Pick one.
Still paid search is still, like for our direct to customer business, Google search is still taking a lot. If I say on a global basis, on a regional basis, is Facebook ads.
I'm surprised you didn't mention Bing.
And then, last will be LinkedIn. LinkedIn for targeted ABM, there's nothing better than LinkedIn.
All right. What's your most hated business expression?
Oh, there's
one line.
Many. There's so many. Let's take that offline.
For sure. All right. Your marketing mantra in one line as a CMO.
Don't spray and pray.
Fantastic.
Meaning, yeah.
Got it. Your bet on one technology or innovation or disruption that will have a big influence on the e-commerce in a short term. When I say short term, I mean the next 2 years.
I think COVID is just done a mass. There's nothing more innovative that has forced people to digital transform their business than the pandemic. No single technology. The pandemic has enabled e-commerce in a way that no other single tool would or could.
All right, very innovative. Okay, pick one. Peter as a boss or Peter as a colleague?
Oh, Peter is the boss.
I
I'm a
hope your
nicer
team
boss
is part of the
myself.
call. All right, meetings with PowerPoint or whiteboards?
I gotta say PowerPoint. Come on, that's a tough PowerPoint.
Very interesting for you. CMO of GE Healthcare or CMO of Microsoft?
Microsoft. I love GE, but this is the best job I've ever had.
All right, and my final question to you, your mentor, Linda, the founder of Better Homes, or Bill Gates?
Oh, Linda, easy. That's a no-brainer. She's awesome.
All right, thank you so much, Peter. That was very honest and non-diplomatic answers. Thank you so much. All right, with that, let me move to Mithil. Are you ready, buddy?
Yep.
Make it rapid fire and make it witty.
Sure.
Your take on programmatic advertising for e-commerce?
Still a lot of work to be done over there.
Got it. Would you use mobile marketing for performance or for branding or for both?
For both.
First advertising dollars to Google, Facebook, YouTube, OTT, programmatic, or any other channel?
Content, I think.
Brilliant.
That will enable everything else.
I give you a brilliant answer. Your one-line take on influencer marketing driven e-commerce, social e-commerce, or your one-line take?
Great to begin e-commerce, great to scale e-commerce, difficult to sustain.
Your bet on one technology, innovation, disruption that will have a big influence in e-commerce?
My bet is still on any innovation that comes through social media, because that's where entertainment is. That's where most of the time is spent by users, and anything that can commercialize that space is where the innovation lies, I feel.
Keep a check on what's happening in US and China. I think they've been fantastic when it comes to social media driven e-commerce. Yeah. All right, choose one. Agency life or the client side? You've been part of both.
Client side.
Somebody's talking. All right, e-commerce marketplace or direct to consumer?
Direct to consumer.
All right, advertising through cookies or device IDs, which is a better unique identifier?
Device IDs.
Fantastic. Cash on delivery or digital payments?
Digital payments, hands down.
Hands down, absolutely. And your focus more on mobile web. I think you already answered that question, but yeah, your focus on mobile web versus
mobile and only mobile.
All right, thank you so much, Mithil. Fantastic answers. And let me move to Amash. I know I'm running out of time, but just last 5 minutes. Austin, just last 5 minutes. Promise I'll finish it quickly. Austin, Amash, are you ready, buddy?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
What percentage of your traffic comes from web versus app for this region?
So again, relating to Peter, anything which is B2B oriented, it's always desktop. But for us, from a consumer point of view, it's always 80, 85 plus on mobile.
You know, that's why I have the rapid fire. I'm not looking for the diplomatic answers. I'm looking for data for audience. All right. Your take on programmatic advertising for the EPMG group?
So for EMPG group, it's important, especially helps with the retargeting stuff.
All right. Would you invest in a CDP, consumer data platform, for customizing the consumer journey? Sure. Or invest in a better analytic platform? You know, you lead the data practice as well.
I think better analytics platform for CDP, the only challenge right now in this market is the data is not powerful enough at this moment.
I agree with you. It's segregated. One newer business model for online classified industry.
I think the ultimate would be to include some sort of transactional business model.
Very innovative. Okay. And your bet on one technology, innovation, disruption that will have big influence on the e-commerce.
I think social commerce, I think Mithil or someone, Peter mentioned as well, the social commerce would be one thing that definitely would pave the way.
I'm noting this down. Peter mentioned COVID, Mithil mentioned social commerce, and you agree with him. All right, choose one. Digital for performance advertising or for brand building?
Both. Channels might vary though.
Your most important metric for digital advertising, CPA, CPM, or any other?
I would say CPA.
First advertising dollars to Google, Facebook, YouTube, OTT, programmatic, or any other channel?
Depends on the vertical and the objective, but I would say Google.
All right. And finally to you, English ads for the audience or vernacular advertising? Which one works better?
English predominantly for this region, UAE-based region.
All right. Thank you so much, Amash. And I finally have Stacy, the lady in the green. All right, Stacy, all the best to you. According to you, what's the biggest challenge for online retailers today? I'm sorry, I'm speaking fast because I know Austin would be saying that you're running over time. But according to you, what's the biggest challenge for online retailers today?
So I'm going to say for bricks and mortars, it's connecting online to offline.
All right. Digital transformation should be a KPI of CMO, CDO, or CTO.
None of the above. It should be for everybody at the organization, whether you're an entry-level employee or a C-level executive, because digital transformation is paramount. It's only driven by, all of the employees at the organization to each adopt it into their way of working.
All right. Your top qualifying question when a client is talking about or asking you for digital transformation?
Oh gosh, there's so many. I mean, a lot of them I think are on this topic about the cookieless future and what they need to do today to be prepared for it.
All right. Your bet on one technology, innovation, disruption that will have a big influence on e-commerce?
GPT-3, which actually someone on my team educated me about. So it's super advanced natural language processing. I think that if you haven't heard about it, look it up.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about it because it's your rapid fire, but I was so tempted to share my knowledge on that. All right, choose one: digital adoption versus digital transformation.
Both. I mean, they both have to happen, but I would say probably digital adoption. And I would be surprised if you haven't adopted digital. I mean, it's 2021, right?
Come on, yeah. All right, disruption in digital to come from the large giants or the new age companies?
New age. I think that there's a big fury that's brewing, especially with the startups.
Interesting you mentioned, because all of us still look at Amazon for disruption or innovation in e-commerce, but it's interesting the way you mentioned. All right, most important factor for digital transformation: people, product, processes?
People. People 100%,
Fantastic.
because without the people, nothing will transform.
Fantastic. I'm going to put you in a spot on this one. Publicis Media e-commerce solution or Publicis DMT solution? Pick one.
Or DMT solution. Oh, gosh, you're really putting me on the edge here. If I have to pick one, I would say DMT, and that's because commerce technically is a part of the DMT framework.
All right. Thank you very much, Stacy. Thank you very much. And thank you, audience, for spending your last 45, 50 minutes with us. I hope this session was useful for you. And thank you so much, panelists, for a fantastic session. Austin, over to you.
Thanks a lot for that. That was absolutely brilliant. I don't know whether you had secretly rehearsed your rapid fire round beforehand, but it was, yeah, there were some really good insights there. I think that one of the things that really stood out was Stacey's answer when you were asking who should lead change, and she said that it has to come from absolutely everyone. There was stuff in there about so really good stuff. There was stuff about sort of a lot of actionable advice, and I also liked the fact that both Mittal talks about sort of conversational commerce, and I think that that rather spoke to Peter's point about how you know, if you have chatbots or even, heaven forbid, real conversations there, you don't need cookies so much because you know your customers that way. There's ways to, you know, who knows, people might actually start sharing information sort of organically. So there was some really good stuff there. Thanks a lot. And obviously we've run out of time. I'd always like to keep these things going on, but you can reach out to all my panelists on their various social media handles. They're all on, you know, all popular things. You'll find a lot of them in the magazine fairly regularly. I've got a good few contributors have graced our screen today. So thank you very much to well, to all the panelists, including Sabiha Iqbal from Accenture Interactive, Stephanie Cunningham from Omnicom Media Group, Stefan Davis from Al Masood Automobiles, Khalil Yassin from Unilever, Gulraz, and this panel, Gulraz Alam from Arabi Ads, Peter De Benedictis from Microsoft, Stacey Fisher from Publicis, Amash Malik from Bayut, and Debizol and Mittal from Landmark Group. There's been a really, really good lineup today. We've had a lot of different looks at things from a lot of different angles. We've had a lot of fantastic different insights and sort of, yeah, definitely a lot of sort of viewpoints. I'd like to just thank, once again, I'd like to thank our sponsors, who include Arabi Ads, which is the largest e-commerce marketing platform in the region, and Shweri Group, which is the leading media representation group in the Middle East. Both of you guys, I mean, obviously none of us would be sitting here in this digital room if it wasn't for your support. So thanks a lot for that. And again, I can only emphasize, keep reading campaign, keep following us on social. Come over to Instagram and marvel at our brand new blue tick. We're very proud of that. Yeah, looking forward to seeing you at the next one of these. We've got a Ramadan special coming up in April, so hopefully see you all then. Thank you very much to panelists, attendees, behind the scenes people, absolutely everybody. You've been fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was
Austin.
lovely.
Thank you.
You guys.
Thank you, panelists.